If you've been building scale models for a while, you know the big names, Tamiya, Revell, Airfix. But over the last decade or so, there's one company that's really shaking things up in the market with an impressive cadence of new releases, re-releases, an innovative kit design that really doubles down on the details and realism we like to see in our models. Today, I want to talk about why MiniArt just might be the most exciting model manufacturer on the market right now. MiniArt's a Ukrainian company that got its start in 2001, producing its first kit in 2003. Specifically, it was a kit of Soviet infantry on the march, which you can see right here. Their first 35th scale AFV kit was a Soviet T-70 tank from World War II, this little guy right here. One thing that really stood out as MiniArt worked to make more and more kits is they were really kind of trying to create more complete worlds. So you have soldiers resting, soldiers riding on tanks, in addition to soldiers fighting and marching. You get accessories for dioramas like weapons and civilians and furniture and things like that. And you've got lots of different vehicles from World War II and beyond, and in different scales besides just 35th scale too. So they really took to me, I think what stands out is they really taken the idea of a diorama, something that we usually scratch build, and really made it a bigger part of their kit design philosophy. And that's a big shift in how we think about modeling. All right, let's talk about detail, because that's one area where MiniArt's recent work really stands out to me. Now, when you open a box, there are hundreds of parts in there, and it can be a little intimidating. But if you look a little closer, the first thing you're going to notice is that these are parts a lot of companies overlook, or you have to buy aftermarket upgrades to have. So you get stuff like suspension arms that actually articulate, all those interior details, gun breeches, things like that. Individual bolt heads, which is kind of a pain, but it is kind of cool at the same time. Another thing I really appreciate is the photo etch, like the tool clamps and all those little photo etch details that really pump up the outside of a kit like that. The surface texture of the kits is nice too. You get well-defined weld seams, you get cast metal, you see wood grain in some of the stuff that's really nice. It's all really sharp looking, and in some cases it even looks like it's been 3D printed. And there's a lot of photo etch in these kits, like I said before, which really, really ups the level of the detail. And so in a lot of cases, especially with the newer kits from MiniArt that you get, you're essentially getting the aftermarket upgrade with the kit itself, which is cool and saves you a little bit of money. Not a bad thing in this economy. All right, the flip side of all that detail is that these are not easy kits to build. This is not a beginner model by any means. You just don't slap one of these things together over a weekend. I'm going to be honest with you. There's been some times where I've put one of these together and it's had me questioning my own sanity, not to mention my own ability level here. Tiny parts, delicate plastic, complex assemblies, like it's a workout. It's a workout to put one of these things together. But that's also what makes them kind of rewarding when you are finished with it, assuming you didn't screw anything up. One downside that you do have to be aware of with these kits is that sometimes the small parts, the plastic on the small parts can be really brittle. So you have to be very careful when you're cutting it off the sprue or finagling it in place. I'm talking about stuff like suspension arms and, the tools, the headlight guards, stuff like that. Just be really, really careful when you're working with it. Now, while other companies really focus in on the greatest hits, Tigers, Shermans, Spitfires, things like that, MiniArt's really made an effort to kind of hit the deep cuts. And in fact, if you look, that's kind of part of their operating philosophy, is to kind of make kits that are underrepresented, if represented at all, within the marketplace. So that's why you get stuff like a Soviet field kitchen, a tram car, a furniture set, and all kinds of other stuff that can be kind of eccentric like that. Now, the chances are, whatever you want to add to your diorama or the stowage on the back of your tank, MiniArt makes it. And that's really cool because it gives you some cool ways to personalize the stuff that you're building. I like that they're not afraid to get weird, and that's what makes them exciting. They're expanding the boundaries of what we can build. I also like how they package the stuff. Look at this set of drivers that they've done for various armies in World War II. Like this box of 4 Allied truck drivers, you can pop these out into a bunch of different kits, trucks, Jeeps, stuff like that. Or there's another one that's one of my personal favorites, the U.S. Officers Kit. Again, you got 4 different GI officers here, easy to use in a lot of different dioramas and situations. Really cool thing to have when you're building dioramas or trying to find ways to make your tank or vehicle stand apart from the others out there at a competition. I mean, look at this. They've even made American gangsters, and that's pretty cool. And I wish I would have picked one up because everywhere I look now, this thing's all sold out. Even when they do tackle familiar subjects like the T-34 or the Panzer III or the Stug, they tend to kind of reinvent them or find the specialty versions of those that are really underrepresented, if they're represented at all in the marketplace. A good example of what MiniArt's done and how they approach model kit making and why I like them so much is the Stewart tank. Now, this pint-sized tank with its 37mm gun that was outgunned almost as soon as it went into service in World War II has really been chronically underrepresented by model makers over the years. Now, Tamiya made one back in the 70s and re-released it in the 80s. And then they put out the brand new tooled Stewart in 2008. And again, that's a great kit. I've built it myself. I really like it. And Tamiya also has this old M5A1 too, most recently updated in 2010. Outside of that, there was an Academy kit that was first released as a British Stewart Honey back in 2002, and it's been reboxed a couple times, including Italieri and Airfix versions of it. MiniArt's about to release its 11th version of the Stewart. This one's a full interior, late production British version. And this might seem like overkill, but I really think it's a smart move to kind of take that initial tooling and put out several kits with it. You get the initial production version, the later production versions. And here's a really cool take, a captured Japanese Stewart version like this. That's a really interesting way to take one base model and make a bunch of different variations for it. I built this Stewart, an American initial production one without the interior, earlier this year. And you can see a couple of the videos on my channel here of the painting and weathering process for it. But I was really impressed with it, blown away by just how detailed it was. Now, I will say it was not easy to build, not at all. And if you look close enough, you could probably spot some screw-ups on my part here and there, especially if you were to look in at the gun breech. Not an easy task, not an easy thing to put together by any means. But I love it. It was a great kit. It was a lot of fun to put together. And I kind of like the fact that it was hard to build. Again, you really get your money's worth out of it. You know, this was I think I spent about 2 weeks building this thing, and that includes some long days on the weekends and a little putzing away 30 minutes, 45 minutes here and there after work on the weekdays. But super rewarding to have it done because it's a really cool model. Now, this is a format MiniArt follows. They produce one kit and then roll out different variations of it. They've done it with supply trucks. They've done it with the Soviet Su-85 tank destroyer. They've done it with Grant Lee tanks, Stugs, even the P-47 fighter in the 1/48 scale. Again, I really like this approach. It gives you a lot of different models to choose from as opposed to just being stuck with one viable Stewart tank kit, for example, to build. Now, in addition to the British Stewart I mentioned above, I think it's worth a quick look at some of the other new releases that MiniArt has slated for November 2025, because I think it really underscores why I'm pretty excited about this model maker right now. So you've got another land tractor coming out. This is their 4th version of it, according to ScaleMates. And it's a really nicely detailed small kit that's going to go great in a diorama. Now, speaking of dioramas, they're rolling out another one of these diorama in a box kind of things that they do. This one's a Kursk 1943 Panzer IV repair set. It's got the tank, there's a crew here working on it, and a really nicely detailed small diorama base with it. And I think that's kind of a cool little thing because, like, if you don't want to sit down and carve foam, personally I like to carve foam, so that's not a deal breaker for me, but I think this is a nice way to have a diorama in a box ready to go. You sit down, you can do it all in one pop. That's a cool thing for model makers. You've also got this Iraqi version of the Eastern Bloc staple T-55 tank. This one's from the first Gulf War. Lots of detail in this one too, and I'm sure you can have some fun and make it look abandoned or destroyed just for that extra level of realism from that war. They also got another P-47 fighter from World War II coming out. And then you have some more accessories like these small wooden barrels. I love stuff like that, by the way. It's a great way to really ramp up your stowage on your tanks, stuff like that. You've got a tool set, a box of Soviet weapons. Stuff like that's really handy to have, again, just for upgrading a kit here and there, a diorama, things like that. And then you've also got these street lamps, another nice little thing to have for dioramas. Every kit maker has its pros and cons, and MiniArt is certainly no exception to this rule. What I do like about MiniArt kits right now is innovative designs. Lots of cool new features, lots of cool new products that they're coming out with. I really love what they're doing. Variety and new releases. I mean, this is a pretty typical month for MiniArt. They push out a lot of kits every month. It's always fun to see that, it's not just a handful of tanks every year and you get what you get. Detail. The level of detail with MiniArt kits is really astounding. I don't know that there's any kit maker right now that's doing this as consistently kit to kit that MiniArt is. And of course, there are some cons here too. Like I said, these are difficult, not easy to build. This isn't a beginner kit. Don't buy this for your 10-year-old nephew or something like that when Christmas rolls around. The plastic can be brittle. Hopefully that's something that can be improved over time, but it's a thing you really, really have to be aware of, because if you screw up that light guard or if you break a suspension arm for your truck, that's it. And there are also issues with their older kits. The new kits are great, lots of details. The older kits, especially some of the figures, which I've talked about in a previous video, there can be some issues with those that you do have to work around in terms of detail or fit or things like that. I think it's also worth pointing out the price of these kits. It's on par with pretty much everyone else out there on the market. All the MiniArt tanks and trucks and things like that tend to be in the bigger kits, tend to be in that $50 to $60 range. Sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, depending on the scope and size of the kit. Now, let me just say that best kit maker is a highly, highly subjective thing. And the best kits, to me at least, are kind of the ones that you have or the ones that you want at any given moment in time. But MiniArt seems to really be embracing innovation, which I think is something that's really important to our hobby right now. Think about what's happened with 3D printers. Think about resin figures. Think about stowage and accessory upgrades and things like that. Think about how much that's changed the hobby of scale modeling in and of itself. And when you apply that same logic to the kits themselves, the tanks, the trucks, the Jeeps, the things like that, that's going to push the boundaries even further, and I think make the future of scale modeling much more exciting. And that's why for me, MiniArt may not be the best, but they're definitely the most exciting model making company that's operating right now. If you've got a favorite kit or kit maker, let me know in the comments. If you've had your own experience with MiniArt, good or bad, please share that here too. I'd love to hear it. Now, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. My name is Ryan. You're watching Sprugoo. Stay tuned for lots more modeling content.